Alrighty, we'll get started. Thank you everyone for joining us. We're excited to have you tuned in. Welcome to the Coinbase Developer Portal or Platform Workshop Series, and today we'll be showcasing you how to develop a lightweight refund system where payment funds are temporarily held and can be returned upon a payer's refund request. I'm your host, Ellie, Technical Community Manager here at CDP. And with that being said, let me introduce you to our speakers today. Esteban, our technical service engineer, and Oz, our commerce program specialist. So today we'll run you through how to set up your refunds using Commerce and OnchainKit and why you should use OnchainKit and Commerce. So few housekeeping notes before we get started. We'll have a Q&A at the end. If you have any questions during the workshop, feel free to put them on the right-hand side in the comments section, and we'll be discussing those questions at the end. Just make sure to keep the questions relevant to whatever we're discussing today and be respectful of everyone speaking. This session will be recorded and will be posted in YouTube, as well as we are live streaming on X at this moment. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. I'll hand it over to Esteban and Oz.
Awesome. Thank you, Ellie. Like Ellie mentioned, feel free to add any questions in the chat. I'll try to reply to them maybe throughout the call, but we're gonna have a Q&A at the end as well. So if you want to, ask questions, then you can hold off then, or just add them in the chat. That way you don't forget. But with that said, I'll transfer it over to Oz to kick it off.
What is up, guys? Yeah, I'm Oz. Super excited to present this little kind of like demo workshop to you. Just some added context for why we're even doing this demo. Historically, for the commerce product, for our legacy merchants, there was a refund button basically next to each charge that you would have received. And so if you were to have gotten paid and then you hit the refund button, it basically would pre-populate the amount that your customer sent, and it would also pre-populate the customer payment address. And so that way we know, okay, we need to refund X amount to this address. With our current offering, there isn't any like native refund functionality, and often developers and merchants need to go to their wallet and they need to like manually enter the amount. They have to specify their currency, network, and ultimately the customer address as well. And so I kind of just wanted to build a more streamlined way for developers and merchants overall to refund their customers. Oops, sorry. Yeah, so for this demo that you'll see in a bit, basically there's a like a mock store. We'll go through the payment flow. There is an admin portal I built, and so this is gated by the merchant specified wallet address. And so if your customer were to go to the admin portal, or anyone here in the audience, you don't have access to my wallet, so you won't be able to access the admin portal. And we kind of already went over some of the problems that we're solving as far as like refunds can be complex. There's no native refund support. Yeah. So the overall stack, it's pretty simple. So we have Coinbase Commerce, obviously, for crypto payments. Coinbase Commerce uses a separate API key from the rest of CDP, so you'll need to have a Commerce account. Coinbase Commerce handles like any type of auto conversion from like native ETH to USDC, or any other ERC20 like that. We have OnchainKit that handles the front end logic, so wallet connection for the admin portal, and OnchainKit also handles the part of the payment flow, given we're using the checkout component from OnchainKit. For the tech stack, it's pretty straightforward. It's a Next project. We use Tailwind for styling. Payments for the checkout component are base only, USDC only. And then as far as like the refund goes, like we have a refund endpoint that we need to call. And so in order to refund the end user, we use ethers, which is just like a library for interacting with the blockchain. This is like a high level overview of the project setup. Esteban, maybe you could link the GitHub repo in the chat in a bit. I can also add it later. But yeah, this is just a high level overview of all the different type of like basically the configuration and project setup. So like I said, it's straightforward. You have your OnchainKit client API key, you have your Coinbase Commerce API key, your webhook secret, your RPC URL. That'll be important for specifying mainnet base. And then you also have your private key that you'll need to add to your env file. One important thing to note, so with this type of setup, because you're adding your private key to your env, it's really important that you add your env to your git ignore. There are bots online that like the second a crypto private key is added to GitHub, there are bots that will like scrape different repos and have your private key instantaneously and like drain your funds. So super imperative that you don't commit this. And then you can see just like further down on the project structure, we have like a charges endpoint, a refund endpoint, our webhook deliveries, and then we have basic components for our front end. Okay, let me do a live demo. I think everything should go smooth. Okay, so here you can see like we have Wallet Island right here. This is one of the OnchainKit React components. This is a really fun component. You can just like drag it around everywhere. I've always thought like a fixed connect button was kind of strange. So yeah, this is just kind of like a nice change for a crypto front end. I'm just going to do the entire flow. I'm just going to make a payment here just to show you that as well. So with OnchainKit, it's USDC only and on base only. And so what this allows through our smart contract wallet is that the end user doesn't have to pay for any gas. It's a really good experience, uses passkeys. And if your user didn't have crypto, we also have like a top-up functionality using Coinbase on-ramp. So even if they don't have crypto, it's super easy to get crypto on-ramp from fiat.
While this loads, I do want to call out that for OnchainKit, it is it's literally just an npm like install command that you run, and you input your API key for OnchainKit that's available in the CDP portal. And you already have like a working app with all these like components that should be working out of the box, right? So a lot of what Os built was built just based off of that, right? And then obviously you add the Commerce API key because that's a part of the component, but just wanted to add that in there, that to get something similar to this UI, although Os is really good at making very clean and creative UIs, you could have a similar UI just by doing that. And I'll attach here the docs for OnchainKit as well.
I think that payment went through. Slightly embarrassing given we're live, but it's deducted from my balance and I didn't see the view transaction. I guess that's not really relevant to this demo, but I would have liked to show the entire flow. Anyways, let me switch my wallet. Well, here. All right, so this isn't my merchant wallet. I'm, playing the role as the end user, the payer. And so because I'm not on, like my merchant wallet isn't connected, I can't access the admin portal. So it's kind of cool that with a simple like constant where you're like declaring your merchant wallet address, like your settlement address from Commerce, you can really easily like gate access on your own site. And it's just a simple API call, like a get call to the Commerce API in order to get all of the different charges you've created. And I've added some filters in the repo that you can filter for like pending charges as well as completed. So let me connect to my merchant wallet so I can. Cool. So the payment I made, it didn't show up right away. It's on pending. So payments on base, they have a 14-minute delivery. In case you guys didn't know, you can use the charge pending event. to be treated as like a successful payment. You don't have to wait for the charge confirmed webhook delivery. Ultimately, like it's like a 1 in a million chance that you would have listened to the pending event and there would have been like a block reorg or something like that. So listening to charge pending is totally fine. Usually the charge pending event will fire in maybe like just a few seconds. Occasionally it can take in the minutes, but that's just something to keep in mind. So I'll just click on one of these random payments. They're all test payments for the sake of this workshop. So I'll just click on some random one. You can see my wallet does have enough USDC, and I also have a tiny bit of Ethereum to pay the network fees as well. I'll just click some random one. So basically right now the refund route file is getting called, and it basically Esteban, I wonder if that's your wallet address. So the route file, it basically will parse the payer address. Give me 1 second, I'll just find some random one. So if you were to look at the API call, you can see here like payer address is logged. You can see the charge timeline, and so it basically just takes the charge amount as well as the payer address, and that's how we know who to refund. Can we see the tips right here?
Yep.
Cool. These are just some general tips. I'm sure some of you have seen this screenshot on the right-hand side. These are some like general rules for vibe coding. I'm a vibe coder. I don't even know how to code, but with Cursor, with OnchainKit, with Coinbase Commerce, you literally can like use ChatGPT 01, for instance. You can craft your entire response as far as, I mean, I don't know if I'd recommend it, but putting in like your Commerce API key, potentially your private key, you can put in a whole bunch of info to like have an amazing prompt initially for Cursor. And so you basically would just feed that into Cursor. I would say this demo overall took me maybe 3 or 4 hours of like pretty consistent prompting and just being like careful and adding like a Cursor rules file and stuff like that. But overall, the complexity is relatively low. I recommend starting from a fresh project. It's easier to integrate OnchainKit, Commerce, all these different things when you're starting from scratch with their framework. And the scaffolding just makes it way easier. They handle the providers, they handle the wallet connection. WAGMI is, installed as a dependency, so it just makes it super easy out of the box. As far as using Cursor goes, I don't know if you guys are using Cursor for your own CDP projects, but I highly recommend adding like all of the Commerce API information to your docs on Cursor. I recommend adding all of the OnchainKit information to your docs. Maybe like Ether's library, anything that you think that your project will need, add to the document so it can get added to your project. One thing I've learned over the past few months is that often I will spend a couple hours working on a project and attempt deployment. Vercel is really tricky with like linting errors and stuff like that. You can ignore those errors, but it'll make it a lot easier to deploy your project if you start early. So maybe like prompt like 2 or 3 times, have that main master prompt that like O1 helped you write, and then you'll be able to kind of like iterate from your deployments, and you don't have to like spend like hours trying to deploy it later on. And yeah, a final warning, add your private key to your ENV and make sure your ENV is added to your Git ignore. You don't want that to get exposed online for some type of scraper to steal your funds. Obviously, my wallet had like $10 in it, so even if it happened and it got drained, it wouldn't be the end of the world, but just be careful.
Now that I hear, like, we totally encourage here, like, to use Cursor or Replit, just because those are pretty. They get you like I wouldn't say 10x, but like I would say they get you pretty productive in like building these things, especially within CDP, right? So in the docs, and I'm gonna link it in the chat, we actually have a dedicated like use AI tooling page. There we link basically a documentation for CDP SDK. We have it in Node.js and in Python. You can just copy that, and same thing for OnchainKit. We have sort of like a reference guide essentially that you can copy, and it's optimized to be added to these LLMs. So you can totally like, for instance, when you're starting off, let's say you have a blank project, right? You don't have anything. And also, I don't know if this is the route you took, but you could basically just copy that info from CDP SDK, the reference guide, and OnchainKit reference guide, and then you could kind of prompt whether cursor or replit. You can tell it, hey, I want to build this using CDP SDK or OnchainKit, and the LLM will obviously refer to this, right? I found it a lot easier than like going to the documentation and like copying and pasting like each API page separately and individually. This is like an all-in-one page to help you get started. So just wanted to call that out, and I added it in the chat.
Sweet. I guess we'll move to Q&A. Are there any questions from the audience or yeah.
See one question in the chat. Did that payment from Proof of Week, did that payment take maybe 15, 20 seconds? Oscar, can you confirm how long it took? I don't know if you can see it from your end or confirm it.
I don't think I have this specific merchant on my work machine. I was using my personal machine. I can update the chat at a future point and see how long it took specifically, but yeah, I would say it took it probably took like 10 seconds for the charge pending event to go through, but every once in a while the payment button doesn't transition correctly. So I think that was just like a one-off and was just an unfortunate circumstance for the demo. I've made hundreds of payments to myself, and very rarely, maybe like 1% of the time, something like that will happen. So yeah.
Sounds good. We do have other questions. Will this approach work Coinbase Smart Wallet in your opinion, Austin?
For the refund component, it won't work. So like smart wallets don't have like the way they're set up, like that you don't have like an exposed private key. As great, smart wallets are like the flagship wallet right now. Passkeys are incredible. Account, being able to have backups and recovery, smart wallets are incredible. But for this specific use case, to make it one click and like instantaneous for the refunds, you do need to have an EOA in order to have your private key exposed. So yeah, this will only work for an EOA. Coinbase Wallet and MetaMask, you both can easily find your private key by clicking on like your wallet address and then like show private key. I went through both. They're both like the same process. So yeah, you need an EOA.
Awesome. And I'm looking at the chat. I see some folks typing, but we're still waiting for more questions. Quick follow-up question, I guess, two in one, right? So which API keys do I need just to make sure, right? If I want to build something like this, I'm a merchant, want to set up my store. Which API keys do I need, and how can I test my webhooks like after I set it all up, right?
So for the API keys, you will need your Coinbase Commerce API key. You will need your OnchainKit client ID. You will need your Coinbase Commerce webhook secret, and you will also need your EOA private key. As far as getting the webhook set up, it's, like I mentioned, deploy early on Vercel or something so that you can get a URL. So you'll take that URL and you'll just add it to Coinbase Commerce, and you'll have some like basic route file where it'll just be like your URL / API / webhook. And that way your route file it'll listen to different events based on your webhook settings.
Awesome, thank you. And can you compare, what you've built? I think it's such a cool product. Like, can you compare where the refunds are today in commerce, Coinbase Commerce, versus like simplified? You made this here. Yeah, can you talk about the lay of the land and refunds now, and how you kind of automated that here for merchants?
Specifically for commerce, like, can you clarify?
Yeah, for commerce. Yeah, for commerce, like, what does the refund process look like now? Like, why is it a bit of a hurdle versus when you built?
the refund process, the life cycle of it starts with like the end user, right? They request the refund. Maybe they're, communicating with you over text or email or Telegram or something like that. They're communicating they want a refund. You decide whether you'll approve it, and then you would need to like go to your wallet address. You would have had to know their specified like refund address. You would have to know the amount to refund. You would have to select like the networks. And so the way that this refund system works is that it's one click. The payer address, even though it could be risky, is assumed based on whoever made the payment, based on like the payer address from the charge that was paid, and the network is handled as well. So it's an easier way. You have all your charges right there. Yeah. Does it only work for USDC? I see that in the chat. Well, it wouldn't necessarily only work for USDC. It's just that the way I set up this project, I only have the checkout component integrated, and the checkout component is USDC on base only. And so that like implies all of my payments from that admin portal are going to have settled as USDC on base. So yes, it's USDC only, but as far as using like your private key to send like Ethereum or a different ERC20, it's just a matter of finding the contract address, the decimals, and it's a very similar process. And it's not just base only. This would also work for mainnet. It would work for plenty of other L2s. You would then also want to specify your RPC URL to be reflective of the network as well.
Thank you, Os. And another question is, can this be built with another tech stack, right? This use, I think, TypeScript and OnchainKit, but if I want to do this with like Python or something like that, is that totally doable to build something out like this if I'm a merchant?
Yeah, honestly, I think this is simple enough where you could build it with any type of, stack. This is just what I'm accustomed to using TypeScript. But yeah, I think you could do it in Python. You could do it in some other languages. I don't know all the, I'm not an expert in the ethers library. I don't know all the different ways you can interact with ethers, but yeah, it's not exclusive to TypeScript.
As of today, are most commerce users, are they building on OnchainKit? Is that the pattern you're seeing? Like, is that probably the simplest way to do it? Or are most commerce and merchants building in some other method?
I think it's mixed. I think for simpler integrations where maybe you only have a few products, maybe you don't need shipping details, maybe you have some type of like digital services, donations, I think OnchainKit is really great. It's super easy to integrate. Tina, one of the product leads from OnchainKit, presented yesterday. She mentioned that you can go from like initiating your project to running your development server and having like a fully built app in 3 minutes. That was from my video. It literally is that fast. It's insane. You really can do a lot within just 30 minutes. But yeah, so maybe simpler integrations will use OnchainKit and the checkout component. Some of the limitations on the checkout component are that it's USDC only, base only, smart wallet only, but there are various features of that stack that kind of alleviate any type of hurdles, on-ramps, gasless experiences, instantaneous payments to the merchant. It's really amazing. As far as using like the generic like Coinbase Commerce API, that might be more geared towards like larger merchants that are doing like thousands of payments where they need a lot of flexibility. They've built their own like shipping systems, everything like that. So yeah, I would use OnchainKit with Commerce if you have a simpler type of product or payment flow business structure, and then I would integrate the Commerce API directly if you have something more complex. We also have our integration partners like Shopify and WooCommerce.
Thanks for that, Os. And quick question, on the OnchainKit, we have that component, the checkout component. For folks who are new to OnchainKit, do they still need the Commerce API key when using that component, or can they just use that component and check out using the OnchainKit API key?
No, they also need the Coinbase Commerce API key. So basically without one, you need both. If you only have one or the other, it won't work. Check out. Yeah, so you can, you can go to your Coinbase Commerce portal. You can create a product checkout and grab that product ID. Essentially, it's just a checkout ID. We've just rebranded it to call it products. So you can integrate it that way and just specify your product ID. It already has like the chart or the checkout metadata attached, like the name, the price, description, stuff like that. But if you want dynamic charges, maybe for something more complex, dynamic pricing, there was a different demo where we integrated a tax calculation into the payment flow. This used the dynamic charge kind, so that you can programmatically create charges at different prices. I saw in the Discord recently, someone was asking about discount functionality. If you wanted to add discount functionality, you would also need to use the charge handler and be given it's a more complex integration.
That's awesome. Are there any other demos that I think you just built like a fantastic one, Bert. Are there other demos in the either CDP documentation or here on OnchainKit that users can go to that show examples of integrating commerce with OnchainKit? I do in the docs. I know there's a bunch of like use cases on the bottom left on the nav bar, but any that you know of top of mind that are pretty good to build off of, just to have a template for users.
Not off the top of my head, no. I could hunt some down though. I know our product manager, Justin Gainsley, he's made a couple cool things, so I'll try to track something down. I can post it in the commerce channel later today.
So thank you. And here's, I'll invite the rest of the audience, so feel free to ask any questions either in the chat. I'm not sure if we're bringing folks up to the stage, but feel free to ask it in the chat, and then we could go ahead and do our best to answer.
If you guys want, like, based on the demo, if you would want something like this, but don't want to build it yourself or don't have Cursor or don't want to pay for a ChatGPT subscription or all the, even though it is relatively easy to build something like this in just a few hours, if you don't want to go through the headache, I also was working on a MPX package where you basically it triggers the OnchainKit installation flow, like npm create onchain. After you fill out your OnchainKit information, like your client ID, the name of your project, whether you want smart wallet only, it like appends to the bottom, and then you enter like your Coinbase Commerce information, like your Coinbase Commerce API key. If you want to create any products or have a specific product ID you already created, you click enter, and then you just simply run your development server, and you can see all of your different like commerce charges already, and you'd be able to click like refund on any of them. So you don't even, you would have to add like your private key and some of the other credentials specific to you, but this enables you to like not even need to touch an IDE if that's something anyone would be interested in.
And I'll add that on the OnchainKit docs, there is an example of an OnchainKit and like commerce store that I just linked in the chat. Here it's basically like adding all of this, right? Which is like you have the OnchainKit, you have commerce, and you could literally fork this and just switch out the API keys and build it to your liking, right? So just wanted to add that in the chat for those who want to build something similar but don't want to start from scratch or anything. Here's a whole template that you could use, right? So just wanted to call that out.
This would work super well. The only thing that isn't included in this would be shipping, and maybe that's something that could be considered for a future workshop, integrating some like lightweight shipping API. Not sure.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Let me see. I'm still looking around for questions. I don't see any other questions from the chat. Audience, feel free to ask your questions. If no other questions, we could maybe close it off soon. Oz, for those who like have any questions about this, what's probably the best place to reach us? Is it Discord? Is it Docs? What do you recommend?
Yeah, I would, review our docs, hit us up in Discord, use the commerce channel. Yeah, I love engaging with developers and merchants, and yeah, would love to chat about your use case, add it to show and tell, and overall, we just love your engagement.
Awesome. And I will say we always welcome your feedback from developers, right? We do take your feedback seriously, and we report it directly to the product team to implement these changes. So any feedback when it comes to either OnchainKit or commerce, or we'd love to hear your use cases, right? Like how you guys are using commerce as well, or OnchainKit, so we could improve the product for you guys. So just want to call that out there, right? Not only reach out to us if you have any questions or running into technical hurdles, but also feel free to reach out to us with any suggestions, right? And Ellie just posted it. The best place to ask is there on Discord. It's a feedback and suggestions channel. Just add there, hey, I use this, I'm getting this error. I feel like it should be better, or hey, this error message isn't too clear. I'd love if there were documentation explaining this a little better. So we're all ears. We're here to improve the product, and we really care about the developer experience. So just wanted to call that out.
Ellie, did I see that you posted in was it the ETH Denver Buildathon? Do you want to talk about that quest? Because I would love to see people build with OnchainKit, specifically the checkout component for this quest. I love seeing your use cases, and I'd love to see more.
Yeah, so we had a really cool workshop yesterday with Tina about OnchainKit. And the video I posted it's in the announcements. I can put the link in the chat as well. So yeah, we have a quest going on for the next 12 days. We want to see what you build with OnchainKit. It can be literally whatever. We have some example implementations as well. And you get to win a pretty cool role that separates you from the rest of the community. So it's a really cool opportunity to just get in there and build and look through the workshop that we went through.
And build with the checkout component. It's great.
Awesome. Well done. Thank you guys for listening. This has been fantastic. Ellie, can you confirm, is this going to be posted on YouTube, or can users who might have missed this or want to rewatch this find this recording?
Yeah, so this will be posted in YouTube probably in a few days, maybe a week max. We are also live on X, so you guys are able to go through and look over the recording again, strictly from X. So
Awesome. Thank you, Ellie.
awesome. Well,
I don't see. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say thank you guys so much for joining us for this awesome workshop. Thank you, Oz and Esteban, for the workshop as well. We'll be live next week with more workshops, but in the meantime, like Oz said and Esteban, please feel free to put any questions in the commerce channel. We'll be watching everything that comes through there. With that said, thank you guys so much, and hope everybody has a great rest of their day.
Thanks, everyone. That was a lot of fun.
Thanks, guys.